Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies.
Wow.
Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But Ryan, there's one E that's often overlooked.
That's not educational, is it?
No, but it is.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, well done.
If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can really help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Right on. Let's do some growing. The topic of today's discussion, the 1997 neo-noir crime classic, LA Confidential, starring amongst a slew of great actors, Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, and Kim Basinger.
Never heard of them.
It was that was funny. It was directed by Curtis Hanson and based on James Ellroy's 1990 novel of the same name. As always, there will be a plenty of spoilers ahead, so consider yourselves duly warned. And I tried to resist, but I must insist on guilting anyone who likes movies that hasn't seen this yet. Okay? So,
Sure.
Maybe your power's been out for the last 28 years, or maybe you've been busy doing laundry or raising kids or having a career or some silly thing like that. Whatever your excuse is and whatever you've been doing, please set aside a couple of hours for this flick. It's a fun ride.
I highly recommend.
Right on. Okay, so that concludes your cinematic public service announcement for today. Be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen or watch, as it really helps us grow the show. So shall we begin, Ryan?
Let's do it.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So Ryan, I'm in the mood to make a bold statement.
I love a bold statement. Let me hear it. Lay it on me.
The egg came first. Oh, wait, it was... Maybe it was the chicken. I was stoned last night. It was so clear then.
You were making a bold statement.
It was so clear. Oh, my God. But that's not what I came here to say, actually. I'm here to say that from what I've seen in my roughly 34 years plus on the planet, give or take, don't laugh too hard,
Sure.
is that everyone has a price. There's some point where everyone will give up their mother, will go against something they strongly believe in. So is it pain that's going to bring you there? Is it going to be money? Is it going to be power?
Interesting.
What will bring out what your price is? Okay, now that I've made that bold statement, have your attention, I'll say that this actually does not apply to everyone. There walk amongst us a very, very small number of people who cannot be bought, cannot be broken, cannot be corrupted. But how honest can we be with ourselves about our own corruptibility?
Yeah.
And I think that this movie really showed that. It showed the weaknesses and it showed inflection points.
Yeah.
Really, really beautifully.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I have a question, and no pressure.
I know where this is going.
But have you ever caught a glimpse of your own price? And to let you off the hook a little bit, have you ever watched a torture scene on a movie or a show and thought, man, I would have told them where the stash was 3 broken fingers ago,
Sure. Man. That's such a layered question, I think.
It is, or I don't know if this is an easier question for you. But it's of the same ilk.
Okay.
And that is, have you ever caught yourself in an inflection point where it's like, I've got these 2 roads in front of me. I can do that, which is probably the right thing to do, or I can do this, and who's going to catch me anyway, and who's going to see it anyway, and who's going to know?
That's a good
almost
point.
like the finding somebody's wallet. There's $250 of cash in there.
Yeah. Well, I
You
know
know?
I've talked about this before on the podcast and in a previous episode. I don't remember when it was. But for a long time, for years, I operated under this kind of strange. By most people, when I spoke to them about it, or told them about it, unfathomable, but it was like if I was so driven to accomplish my goals and my dreams, and I was so hell-bent on this is what I want to accomplish with my life. If I've got, we talked about it in a different episode, I've got one life. So if I do have one chance, this is what I want. And I'd be willing to sacrifice anything and everything if it means that comes true. You know? So if a genie came to me, I always give the analogy, but if a genie came to me in the night and was like, you did it, you accomplished it, I've been to the future, I see it, you got what you wanted. You accomplished your goal of reaching people and making a difference.
Okay.
But you lost your friends, you lost your family,
You left a wake of destruction.
everything.
Basically.
You have to give everything up. It was not a question. It was, yeah, okay, where do I? Wow. Goodbye. Let me continue.
You'd make a great supervillain.
Right? If that thing I wanted so badly was like something, superficial. But I don't share that perspective now. But I can absolutely see where everybody has that willingness to, or some sort of, like you said, inflection point of something. I completely can relate to that entirely.
Yeah, me too. I throughout time watching movies of people being tortured. And look, it didn't just happen to Christ. It happened to so many people throughout history who have been tortured for various reasons. And it is one of the things I really think about when I'm watching movies. Like, would I be that brave? Would I be able to take that? And a lot of times, if I'm being honest with myself, it's like, no.
Sure.
But you also get to see in certain movies, and I'm getting a little off track, but I think it's on the subject, I think it's interesting. You do get to see in some movies the price that people pay when they let go of their integrity and when they are bought and when they are compromised.
Yeah.
And you get to see that, was that life worth living? Was it that worth it to get that money or to get that power or whatever it was?
Yeah.
When you sold out your buddies and it cost them their lives?
I've got a lot of respect for people who will go to the furthest possible length to not cave, to not give in, to not allow someone to win them over. I have a lot of respect, especially and in movies too. Like when I see movies where there's a character, I immediately have so much respect for that character because, again, I would, like you, I don't think I'd probably be, holding out as long as a lot of them do. It wouldn't take a ton of pain for me to squeal.
Sadly, not for me either.
That's being honest.
Yeah, and particularly, isn't it? We see this a lot in crime movies or mob movies in particular. I'm watching The Gangs of London right now. One of the more violent things I've ever seen. Have you seen that show?
No, what is that on?
My Lord. It's on Netflix.
Netflix, Gangs of London.
Yeah. Wow, the violence is extraordinary.
Okay.
And the pain that some of these people will go through, and will never give up what they're going to give up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
And in thinking about this, Ryan, one thing that at least gives me some hope is that I think, and you've evolved in your perspective on this. I think that kind of a thing can be changed. I don't know how much more pain I'd be able to take, but I think as I get older, I look at it differently because I do think of the other side of once the pain has subsided physically or once, whatever, can you live with yourself?
It also depends. That's a great point. I see exactly what you're talking about there. I always ask, in talking about this, there's something that's coming up too, is like, it depends on what it is. Because I think there's something that each of us would, so hard to put yourself in there when you're not there. But there's probably all of us can probably find maybe one thing that we might die for, might be willing to die for. Like if it could be, you could think of anything. If it was to protect your children, if you have children and you're watching, whatever it is. Certainly if somebody was like, I don't know, give us the codes to the nukes or something like that, and we're going to blow up the world, I'll take one for the team here. I'll die with the codes.
For sure.
What it takes to not have everyone die.
Right.
Right. So I think there's probably a point where every person would say, yeah, I'd be willing to die for said thing.
I think you're right. We'll never be able to prove that empirically.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think that this is where movies, one of the reasons Ryan and I do this to y'all out there is to talk about, what you can learn about yourself and life through movies.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the beautiful things about movies like this one, like LA Confidential, or about war movies, is that they show really extreme circumstances, and they show what it brings out of them in these extreme circumstances. And you and I hopefully will never live through war, and we're probably not going to be corrupt cops on the LA police department.
Sure.
We're not going to be in those kinds of extreme circumstances, but we can watch movies like this and really try this on and who would I be in here?
Yeah. Because everybody in this film has a varying degree.
They do.
There's the guy that's immediately ready to snap. And then there's the guy that kind of takes a little bit longer to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you have any experiences that you can attest to this? How do you relate to that?
I do. And I got to say, when I was younger, man, if I could get away with something, I did.
Sure.
When I was younger, like in my teens and stuff, yeah, if I can get away with it, nobody sees it, it's all good. It's all good. But I did have a conscience, and it did haunt me. And I realized, now, wait a minute, it took me some time. And I'm a relatively bright guy, but it took me time to realize, wait, if you don't do that in the first place, you don't feel like shit. You're not wallowing in
spare
guilt.
yourself.
You can spare yourself.
Sure.
And I think that my price was a lot lower when I was younger, because I think my care for the people in my life and what they mean to me is just only gotten bigger as I've gotten older. Yeah. So I think whatever my price is, or whatever, level of pain, whatever, I think it's gone way up.
I agree. I would say similar scenarios, just very low cost as a kid.
Right.
As a teenager, just kind of
$25, I'll do it.
Yeah,
man. I'll do it.
I did a lot of stuff, man. And as I've gotten older, as I've become more self-aware, as I've become more mature, as I've learned and I've grown and I've evolved as a human, that price has gone up significantly.
Good to hear. And also doing things that people might not even recognize or know you did, those feel really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
agreed.
So let me give a quick recap of the movie, which Yeah, I know.
Good luck.
Because this could take me 2 hours to recap.
I'll see you in 20,
Totally. So I'm going to admit that I completely ripped this very succinct recap off of IMDb. This is what they've said, and I love this because this leaves out so much, but it does get to the point. Quote, "As corruption grows in 1950s Los Angeles, 3 policemen, one straight-laced, one brutal, and one sleazy, investigate a series of murders with their own brand of justice." There, done.
That's a good synopsis.
It is, but it leaves out so much. So I'm just going to add a little bit more detail in case you've never seen the movie or you saw it, 1,000 years ago when it came out. Right. So, to me, it also shows the intersection of police corruption and, Hollywood celebrity.
Definitely.
So we have Ed Exley, played by Guy Pearce.
Great name, by the way.
Isn't it? Ed Exley, I know. So he's an ambitious cop whose father was a legend on the force. And he's the straight-laced one.
He's our straight-laced guy.
Yes.
Yep.
Then we have Bud White, played by a young Russell Crowe.
Who came up with these names?
I know, I love it.
Ed Exley and Bud White.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like Bud Light.
It does. And Russell Crowe was kind of little known at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So he's the enforcer. He beats up suspects who, quite frankly, he'll beat up any man who beats a woman, or he beats on people who are having problems finding their words.
Either or.
Exactly. He's the brute mostly, and he really is the enforcer for the captain of the department. Mm-hmm. We'll get to him. And then there's Jack Vincennes, played by Kevin Spacey. and he is all too clear about his price, quite literally. And he's the sleazy one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they all interact. They all have their motivations, and we see what corrupts them or not. And for all of them, we get beautiful examples of inflection points where they get to make a decision. Which way am I going to go here?
Yeah. I've got an opportunity to make a decision.
That's right.
What's it going to be?
That's right. So we can start with Ed. Ed has something to prove. You know, he's his own man. His boss, Captain Smith, played by James Cromwell, who's awesome,
Love him.
lets him know that if he wants to be a detective, he'll have to be he'll have to be comfortable with a certain level of corruption in order to get convictions.
Yeah,
and so he spells out, are you willing to do these things? Ed is clear that he will not play along. So the chief's saying, then you should not be a detective.
Yeah, you're not willing to do what it takes.
He's like, Ed's not taking no for an answer. You kidding? This
Yeah,
kid's
watch
way
me.
too exactly.
Yeah.
The gauntlet has been laid down for him. So, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to climb the ladder at the force. This guy clearly has his sights on promotion after promotion after promotion. Then Bud, our enforcer, clearly has anger issues.
You don't say.
I know. To a lot of people, they never. I know a lot of people
see
don't pick up. I shouldn't say clearly, but
Yeah.
from watching that 10 or 12 times, I started to pick up the nuance of his anger issues.
Yeah.
And he focuses most of his talents on saving women in distress or distressing the men who mess with the women. He's also an enforcer, as I was saying earlier, for the captain on the force, exacting punishment to evoke information.
Yeah, he's the bad cop. He's in the good cop, bad cop scenario.
Yeah.
He's your bad cop.
Oh, yeah. And he enjoys it.
Yeah.
He's viewed mostly as a thug with a badge. But is that all he's about, Ryan? I don't think so. But we'll find out.
We're going to find out.
And then we have Jack. Jack is a detective who moonlights as a consultant for a hit TV show. That helps him feel like a big man, which I thought was great. He also collaborates with a sleazy reporter named Sid Hudgens, played by Danny DeVito. Played beautifully by Danny DeVito. So good.
Danny DeVito.
And he provides info on celebrities who are using drugs so that Jack, as a narcotics agent, can make busts. And then Sid will get the exclusive story, the salacious pics on said bus.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for both of them.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
Now to try and recap the storylines.
Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot here. There's a lot to chew on here.
Like I was really tempted to lift like these 3 paragraphs from Wikipedia because like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I do have scruples, so I'm not going to do that. I will say though, the novel had 8 storylines, and Curtis Hanson, the director who also wrote the screenplay with Brian Heggeland, reduced the storylines from 8 down to 3.
Do you know who the 8 were? How?
No, because I've never read the novel. I've never read the book.
Hell.
So
That's a lot.
so
they
this-
did a good thing.
They did a
Reducing
phenomenal
it to-
thing. So what I'm going to try to explain could have been a lot more complicated, and I'll try to keep it succinct here.
Mm-hmm.
A mob boss is arrested, which creates a crime power vacuum in LA.
Yep.
The LA police are desperate to keep criminals from outside coming in to fill this void because it's cops on the force who want to fill that vacuum. I said there were going to be spoilers. Meanwhile, there's a shootout at the Night Owl Coffee Cafe, and amongst those dead is a cop who'd recently been fired from the force for his participation in beating suspects for a different crime at the police station.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the 25 pounds of heroin stolen from the busted crime boss's men. This movie shows all 3 of our main characters brought together by this power void and the shooting at the Night Owl Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that about sums it up?
That I would say that does justice.
We're almost done with our episode. Pretty much summed up the movie.
Yeah.
So let's just
Time to wrap
move
things up
on.
here.
Exactly. So before we discuss our theme of corruption and our inflection points and our prices, let's do some and before we get into the scenes from the movie, let's take a quick bad guy break. Shall
Let's
we?
do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's break it up here.
All right. So I'm gonna have to refer to my phone for this one.
We've recapped the entire film, and then
I know that was
bad guy
exhausting.
break.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Okay. So for this one, Ryan,
Okay.
the year is 2013.
Okay, so kind of recent.
Kind of recent. The medium is film.
Mm-hmm.
The genre, this could throw you off because I know you're going to get it anyway. The genre, dark comedy, docudrama, which I thought was really docudrama.
Docudrama.
It stars Leo DiCaprio.
Docudrama. Is this The Departed?
It is The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street. Docudrama. Okay, that makes sense now.
It kind of. I know that's a weird genre, but I
It
just
is.
thought about
Because he's a real guy that really existed.
yeah, and to watch Charlie Sheen. Was it Charlie Sheen?
Who?
That was Wall Street. Sorry, I have my movies conflated. But Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio. He's
Yeah.
just an excellent bad guy. Loved his corruption.
Yeah.
He was very straight with it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I just thought of him.
That's first of all, I love that movie, man. That's such a good movie. Scorsese, and Jonah Hill
Yeah.
as his like
Jonah Hill was so
partner in
good.
crime.
Margot Robbie.
Margot
Was in that.
Robbie. That was like
Yeah.
one of the first times I saw her, I think, was in that.
Me too. And I think we all thought she was from New Jersey.
And the dad was so funny. The dad that was like his like, I don't know if he was like a manager or something, but his like financial advisor or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like the scene where he's like, what are these the sides?
Yeah.
The sides. What are these sides that cure cancer?
Exactly.
$40,000 on sides?
I saw a screening with Leo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill and Martin Scorsese and
Wow.
hearing them talk about it was
Sure.
so cool.
That's fascinating.
so
Great bad guy.
thanks, man. So shall we get on to a scene?
Let's look at our first scene here.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what you picked.
So I want to take these scenes and look at those three characters individually and find the scenes that tell you about something. And since writing these notes, I've actually thought a little bit more. So this isn't necessarily going to be just a scene, but sometimes I'm going to talk about a sequence of scenes that leads us to the inflection point that this particular character went through.
I love it.
So we have a group of suspects in custody at the police station on Christmas Eve night.
Mm-hmm.
And they all got beaten by a bunch of cops for a stupid rumor spreading that wasn't true. And so these guys all get beaten. And LAPD is trying to go through cleaning up corruption, stuff like that. And this looks horrible to the public. So the DA and the police commissioner let the chief know, look, heads have got to roll for this. And the police chief says, look, Chief Smith, look, these cops aren't going to narc on each other. You're not going to find one. Oh, but they did.
Yeah, there was one in there.
That's
that was going
right.
to-
So first they try Bud, Russell Crowe, and he won't. He's not going to do that. So he gets suspended right there.
Yep.
And then he gets secretly reinstated by the chief later. But then we have Exley, Guy Pearce, who's eager to roll on his fellow officers because he at least says that he wants to clean things up. We don't know at this point.
Sure.
But also he wants the promotion. So I roll. What are you going to give me?
Right, exactly.
So we're
Leverage,
seeing-
baby.
Yeah, exactly. So this scene takes place in the commissioner's office where Exley agrees to testify. And before Exley leaves the room, the chief says to him, you're going to be hated because not only will you be rolling over on fellow cops, but they're all going to know why you got promoted. His answer, so the chief asks, before I get to the answer, are you truly prepared to be despised within the department? I watched this like 2 or 3 times to see Guy Pearce's face. And he replied so quickly, yes, sir, I am.
not a beat.
Bring it.
Yeah.
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 He did
question.
not give a single solitary F-bomb. So he just shows that he will not play the game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he will use the game and potentially do what's right and get promoted in the process. So he wants to ride this particular wave, the goody two shoes or the cleaning up wave.
Yeah.
So my question, just looking at him, do you think he's corruptible?
From that, if you just watch that scene, I'm sure you'd probably say no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think all of us would think this guy is going to always stand up for justice, always do the right thing,
True.
always make the right decision.
And he does have an inflection point later on in the movie that I found really fascinating.
Me too.
So hopefully we'll be able to get to that.
We got a lot to get through.
Exactly.
It's a long movie.
Exactly. So let's talk about Russell Crowe's character.
Let's talk about Bud White.
So Bud's I'm just going to cut to the chase on this. He's having an affair with a celebrity lookalike hooker, Lynn Bracken, played by Kim Basinger.
Played by the Oscar winner.
Yes.
Kim
Yeah,
Basinger.
good point. Basinger, forgive me. They both let their guard down to each other, and they seem to have genuine feelings for each other.
Yeah.
I love how she described Bud to Exley.
Yeah, me too. That was great.
And then she says, he's all the things that you're not.
Yeah, it's so good. That's such a great line.
So we learn that Bud is as protective of women as he is, which we see proof of in the movie, because his father murdered his mother.
And he witnessed it.
Yep. So Bud might be a thug, but he's got a certain code of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
And, tenderize a suspect to get info to him, fair game.
Sure.
Like, why not? But roll on a fellow cop? Hell no.
Absolutely not.
Beat a woman? Never. But really?
Yeah.
So this is something that we think, we believe that Bud would never raise a hand against a woman.
Yeah, the whole film up until this point, he's beating up on guys who are beating on women.
So we go to a point in the movie where Exley goes to see, there's another cop, Exley goes to see Lynn Bracken, who, Bud is having an affair with, if you will, to learn more about Bud because he doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
So Exley gets, I guess you could say, rather stimulated by his talk with Lynn.
Stimulated,
and,
good word.
And they end up getting naked.
Yeah, sure.
Little does he know that Sid, the sleazy reporter, is lying in wait, taking pics of their sex for possible future blackmail.
Damn it, Sid.
Exactly. God, when you see him there, because the two of them starting to get together, you're like, really? And then when you see him taking the pictures, she's like, oh, she's so in on this.
Yeah, 100%.
So Bud finds the pictures and is, shall I say, rather agitated by them.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was
been a little upset.
Yeah, he went, oh, no, he didn't do that. He gets in his car, he goes to Lynn's house, and he does exactly the thing that he's been fighting against since he was a boy. He goes to Lynn's house and he hits her twice, hard. Mm-hmm. So feeling this strong jealousy got him to do something he swore he'd never do. His very weakness was that which he vigorously defended.
We found our first inflection point.
We did. And he completely caved. That was his weakness right there.
Yeah.
That's what got him to give up everything that he had stood for. Up until that point.
Yeah, like again, you're as an audience member, you're going, I can't imagine any scenario where this guy would ever not completely 100% defend a woman, much less
That's right.
Raise a hand to her. I mean, he goes out of his way to protect them.
Do you remember the opening of the movie with the guy who's on parole?
He's just ripping his Christmas lights off the house and
That
stuff or
was
whatever.
such a satisfying scene.
Yeah, so funny.
And to see him defend that woman that way.
Yeah, again, that's our save the cat moment with him. That's our indication of like, this guy, this is clearly something that he's passionate about and he's going to protect these women. And then that's why it's so profound when he goes to the house and raises a hand to her.
And also when I watched it a few times, and to see her reaction too, that
she was so shocked. She couldn't believe that this man would.
She was so shocked. And also she said to him, she thought she was helping him.
Yeah.
And you could tell she meant it.
Yeah, 100%.
And
him too. You could see on his face too, he didn't recognize himself.
He didn't. And that was a big moment in his life. Yeah. And I bet if you'd asked Bud 20 minutes before, or even 5 minutes before, knowing that there were pictures of her, knowing that Ed had done this, he would have sworn on his life he would never touch a woman that way.
Yeah.
Never strike a woman.
Yeah. But emotion hits you.
Yep.
And like you said, everybody's got a point.
Yep.
And he reached his point.
Boy, did he. So then let's go to Jack, Kevin Spacey.
Let's do it.
So Jack goes to Chief Smith's house to ask him some questions. What a scene this was.
Oh, so good, man.
Smith learns that Jack, although a narcotics agent, is working with Ed to solve the Night Owl murders.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack is working with Ed out of guilt over creating a situation in which an aspiring actor gets murdered. And I want to talk about that. It's not in my notes, but I want to talk about that.
I was going to say, I think we should elaborate on that a little bit.
So, as I had talked about earlier, Jack and the Sid, the reporter, work together, and Sid gives Jack money, and Sid gives Jack information. Here are the celebrities who are smoking weed. He busts them.
Yep.
Sits there.
Get some photos, front page news. Everybody gets paid off.
Right.
Everybody wins.
So now they want to get some scoop on the DA. They want to get dirt on him. And so Sid and Jack get this young out of work actor played by Simon Baker. I don't know if you recognize him from The Mentalist. He was on that.
Never
series
saw The
for-
Mentalist.
Okay. He was on that show for many years. They talk him into, he's gay, and they talk him into having sex with the DA at this particular hotel room.
Yep.
And they're going to take pictures, and they convince this out of work actor, hey, we can get you in some movies. We can get you work.
Yeah, leverage.
And he's clearly naive, and he believes it.
Yeah.
Jack goes to a bar after this, and he's sitting there with the $50 bill that Sid had given him. And he's sitting there with his drink, and he's thinking, and he's looking at the $50 bill, the payola, what he accepted to put this kid in this position.
Yeah.
And he leaves the $50 bill on top of the shot glass and goes to the hotel to tell the kid, don't do it.
Get out of here.
Get out of
Save
here.
yourself, yeah.
And the kid's been murdered.
Yeah. The guilt.
And that, we saw his inflection point. We saw what this did to Jack.
We saw that he realized too what he was doing and who he was.
Exactly.
Who he become.
Who he had become, and that it cost this young kid his life, a complete innocent.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's working with Ed, because he wants to solve these murders. He wants to correct what he's done. He wants to do a right to correct that wrong.
Yeah.
So, going to Chief Smith's house and asking him and saying, hey, these things line up. Like, you were the night sergeant.
You were the
supervisor, right? Supervising officer
on this
when
case.
these particular things happened.
Yeah.
So Jack's questions hit too close to home for Chief Smith, who shoots Jack in the heart. And before Jack dies, he tells Smith they've got a lead on a suspect, a certain Rollo Tomasi. But Rollo Tomasi is a fictitious name made up by Exley for anyone who gets away with an unsolved crime.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
It was.
Those were his last words.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was phenomenal redemption.
So good.
So Smith later tells Exley that Jack told him about Rollo Tomasi.
Mm-hmm.
And right then, that's when Exley knows that Chief Smith is the mastermind behind everything.
That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah. And he takes him down.
Brilliant.
Jack got killed doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he had been a blatantly corrupt cop. And redemption for him had a very, very steep price.
Absolutely, it did. Yeah, we get to a certain point where, again, unfortunately, it cost someone's life for him to find that out about himself. And he was too late.
He was too late.
And we can learn a lot from that, too.
He was too late.
We can learn a lot from that as well.
We absolutely can. And quite frankly, I don't know if you're gonna go out. We're all gonna go out the big door. He went out the big door really well.
Yeah, he did.
Because the last act that he did was to plant the seed that
would bring down
the man who shot him.
Yeah.
But not just shot him, that created so much
His
havoc.
entire network
had
of
so
fraud.
many people killed.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. I also want to go back to an earlier inflection point for Ed.
Yeah.
Ed
He's the one we
Exley.
didn't talk about yet.
Ed was instrumental in getting the wrong suspects killed.
Yeah.
This group of 3 black men
Yeah.
who the chief had set up to look as though they were guilty.
Yeah, he planted the shotguns in the
He
back of the
did.
car.
And Ed fell for it.
And he goes into that interrogation room.
He does.
He knocks it out of the park. And
He
gets
does.
them all.
He does.
Yeah.
And so when the police go to bust these 3 guys who had nothing to do with the shooting at the Night Owl Cafe, they find that actually they had a Mexican woman tied up that they'd been raping and beating for God knows how long.
Yeah, that's
So they were committing crimes, but just not that not the shooting at the cafe.
Sure.
So Ed is walking. He's pushing the wheelchair of this Mexican woman who the police have rescued out of the hospital, and he mentions what time it was that these men must have left to go commit the shooting at the cafe, and she said, "Well, they may have left around that time."
And he's like, "What do you mean they
What do you
may
mean?
have?"
She's like, "Look, were they going to get in trouble for raping a Mexican woman? No. I said what I had to say so that these guys would get justice, because they weren't going to, otherwise I wasn't going to get any justice."
Yeah.
And what showed me that Ed really did have goodness was that he could have let that go,
Sure.
because he was the driving force. He was the impetus behind going after those 3 black men who all died in a police shootout.
Yeah.
They weren't guilty of the crime that he was going after. He could have left that alone because he was being lauded as a hero.
100%.
And so the fact that he, was taken by that and then pursued, like, we are going to find out who is really behind this. That showed me that actually, I don't know that he is corruptible.
Yeah.
He actually might be a genuinely good guy.
And I think it was important for character development that we had the fact that those men were committing crimes.
Yes.
Because if it would have been a wrongly...
Exactly. That would have been a totally different thing.
Completely different.
Yes.
You need that.
That's right.
Little detail.
That's right.
So that we know that he still did the right thing.
Right, because he so easily could have justified it.
100%.
Well, they had it coming anyway.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm already a hero.
Right.
So I could just leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I loved it too.
So it made me think, well, it looks like Ed might be the real deal.
Ed might be what you were talking about at the beginning. He might be the one person that,
Yeah.
or the few amongst us who are not corruptible. They'll always do the right thing no matter what.
It's hard to come across people who are incorruptible. I will say I do know one.
Wow.
A friend of mine who lives in Edinburgh.
Fascinating.
She is impressive.
Wow.
And she will stick up for the little person, and she will face anyone to stick up for the little person. I've seen her do it. She has a spine of steel.
Wow.
She has unbreakable integrity. She's the only person I've ever met who is this way.
Hats off to her.
And she listens to our show. So
Who does?
Rebecca, that's you.
Rebecca. Wow.
She's extremely
Kudos to you.
impressive in that way. And I use her like as a personal example.
Yeah, it's somebody to strive to be, to look up to want to mirror. That's great. It's we need more Rebeccas in the world. This world would be a lot better place. If we did.
It would be a completely different place.
I loved. Before we give our some recommendations to the people here, I wanted to talk about my favorite moment in the film. and it's a callback. So in the beginning, we talked about how the chief says to Ed, you know, would you be willing to shoot somebody in the back?
Right.
And he says, no. Like, that's what you got to do. Then you should not be a detective.
That's right.
And then at the end of the film, when the chief's walking away, sorry, I should add that he says, will you be willing to shoot somebody in the back so they don't get off by some corrupt lawyer?
That's right.
Some
right.
lawyer's going to get them off.
That's right.
And they're going to walk away from the crime. And so he's walking away in front of him after he's figured everything out. He's taken him down with the help of Bud White. And he's walking away towards the cops.
Bud White and Jack Vincent.
Yes. And you could see it. You could see he's thinking about that.
Yeah.
And he has that moment and then shoots him in the back because he doesn't want him to get away.
That's right.
With what has happened. And I just thought, man, that's damn good storytelling.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
That is such a fantastic
I'm so glad you brought that up.
But it's so satisfying.
It is so satisfying, and that does not make him corrupt either.
No, because he's doing the right thing. This guy's going to walk, and he's going to be able to get away with all these heinous crimes that he committed.
So he pulled a Dexter right there.
He's got to do what he's got to do.
I don't think you've seen Dexter yet, have you?
I've seen Dexter.
Oh, you've seen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. He's taken out the serial killers by being a serial killer himself.
Right, exactly.
But he's doing justice. He's making the world a better place. But he's doing the wrong thing. So it's kind of convoluted.
Exactly.
It's a little cloudy there, but I just really love that moment, man.
That was. I'm really glad you brought that up.
I love Guy Pearce, man.
Me too.
And the movies that I've seen him
Me
in,
too.
I really enjoy Guy Pearce anytime I see him on screen.
Both he and Russell Crowe, for what I've read, it was pretty early on in their careers. James Cromwell, who played Captain Smith, man, he's been in everything. That I think he's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Why don't we give the people some recommendations?
Do it.
So if you liked LA Confidential and you want to see more movies like it, I got to say this list is going to be pretty standard. I mean, there's just some movies that just line up perfectly with it that I can't leave out. The first being Chinatown. And that is on Paramount Plus. That's starring Jack Nicholson. Great movie. Blade Runner. I mean, classic, starring Harrison Ford. And you can watch that on Amazon Prime. Heat, starring Al Pacino. That's not the first time he'll show up on this list. And you can watch that on Hulu. The Departed, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, a bunch of people. And you can watch it on Prime. And then Insomnia, which is kind of a sleeper hit. That's Christopher Nolan's second movie? Second or third film.
Sleeper hit? Was that on purpose?
No, but that's funny that I said that. I chose those words. And that's really starring Pacino, our guy again.
What a great list. What a great
on
list.
Prime.
Right on. Awesome. Thank you for the recommendations. Shall we wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up, man.
So how much of a stand are we willing to take for what we want or for what we think is right? Do we know what will push us to abandon those dreams or those standards? Have we been shown those answers many times in our lives, but we just don't want to look at the answers?
Yeah.
Watching a movie like LA Confidential can help a person answer those questions, quite frankly. Put yourself in the shoes of these characters and be really straight with yourself about the answers. And if you see something you don't like, maybe you can take some actions now before the consequences become much greater.
I love that. I love the way you put that. And if you're listening and if you're watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments. What would your inflection point be?
Love it. Great suggestion. So thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.